All right, everybody, welcome to episode 272 of the 9 Years podcast. I am Nick Draper. I am joined, as always, by the face of the BBC Sport website, Mr. Stuart Deakins. And really, we're just talking about football this week with a couple of games to look back on. A fairly important game at the weekend to look forward to, and we'll be revisiting what happened this week in 2001 as well. I might even discuss turnstiles and advertising halls, amongst other things. But, Stu, let's start on a positive. We needed to beat Crewe. We beat Crewe. The scoreline in no way reflected the differential between the teams, at least for 70 minutes of Tuesday night's game.
Yeah, the result, hey, look, do you know what? When you look back in January, February, you'll see 3-2. We won't remember how dominant we were. It's just the result was everything, wasn't it, on Tuesday night. So, job done. Gives us a little bit of breathing space. But, yeah, as we were just saying before we started recording, bit of a mixed opinion on it, wasn't it, really, of the game. There's lots to digest out of that.
Loads of talking points. And we did speak on and touch on a couple of them. I think your mixed feelings about, not mixed feelings about the game, but sort of coming away, like full-time whistle goes and you start to make your way home, however we all go in our various directions. And yeah, unfortunately, because of the way I suppose the last 20 minutes went, and then we had the red card for Ayuba as well, it felt like people were a little bit deflated, but I really don't want to dwell too much on that, really, because, as I say, for 70 minutes, that was a battering just without the actual scoreline reflecting it. Especially, I mean, we got the 3 goals in the first half, but second half, I don't know how we didn't add to our tally. I think hypercritical, we can look at not being clinical enough when chances did come our way, perhaps picking the wrong pass at the final moment. But really, that was as dominant, or yeah, I'd say as dominant a win as I've seen us have in a long time.
Yeah, it was encouraging, wasn't it? I thought on Saturday against Pompey we started really well with the tempo, the high press, just the energy levels seemed to be a lot higher than they had been recent weeks, and we've done that starting off against Crewe. First 10 minutes, we were just knocking on the door, weren't we? And then they go and score, which is typical from their first attack. But we were dominant, the amount of times we won balls, the press, aggressive, 3 or 4s, and there's many times, especially in the second half, where we got the ball in middle of their half, and we were literally 3 on 3. And in a way, I know it sounds silly, but it was as if it was just a little bit too easy. I think we were all just waiting for that fourth, and then, I said at the time, if this ends 4-5-6-1, then I wouldn't be surprised. And it felt like they were just hanging on. But fair play to Crewe, they got tackles in and blocks in, and a lot of it was last ditch stuff, wasn't it?
Mm. Yeah, and it showed that their team looked like they were playing for their manager. So I think it's just a bit of a lack of ability perhaps in their squad. I think they've got some young players as well. I think, did they have a 17-year-old playing at centre half?
Yeah.
So they've got issues, and we can pick apart their performance. But as I think you've highlighted there, when you talk about how we pressed and numbers and harried them, and the tempo we played out, for me that all comes down to attitude, and I just think our attitude was right. And I think in previous years we've struggled against teams at the bottom of the table. I remember once many years ago in League Two, I think Bury came to Kingsmeadow and they were down at the bottom. It might have been Ryan Lowe, perhaps, who'd just taken over or was newly in charge of Bury at the time, and they were a woeful team at the bottom of the league, and our attitude wasn't right, and we ended up losing the game. And I remember Plymouth. Do you remember losing at home to Plymouth once when I think they hadn't won that season up until they came to us? And again, our attitude just wasn't quite right. And so it was nice for long spells to think, our attitude is spot on here, and we've made what has often been a bit of a laborious effort. We've made light work of it, really, in terms of the dominance we had.
Yeah, them games. I sort of think back sometimes to those games at Kingsmeadow, where they, I think, what do they bring down, about 300. That was probably higher because it was a new ground, but at Kingsmeadow, it's sort of sometimes those midweek games where Crewe come down, used to playing in that sort of low attendance sort of. It doesn't faze them, And you're right, maybe the crowd isn't up for it, but we had just under 7,000 now on Tuesday night.
Allegedly.
Oh yeah, we can get on to that. But say for argument's sake, there's a good 6,000. Say for argument's sake, pretty double what we had at Kings Meadow, and the atmosphere, it just felt different. Like I felt as a lot of times, especially after we conceded the first goal, I think it went quiet for probably 5 or 10 minutes, and then it just lifted. And I think that home advantage now is really starting to show, because there's no doubt, I don't like these things of must wins, especially not in November. But it felt that result was a must-win result for the team last night. Because ultimately you could just tell by everything, every sort of, the way we harassed the bench, the fans, it all just felt like it had to be a win. And I think, like I say, I think it's just different. I think with the crowd and the home advantage, I think that saw us over the line, because it wouldn't have surprised me if they had equalised, or in terms of just because of the way it goes. But I felt, the crowd in the end got us over the line.
On Tuesday night, of course, not last night.
Of course, on Tuesday night. Of course. I forget my nights.
It's getting towards that time of year where we all start to forget what day of the week it is, as we start the run into Christmas. And if anyone's getting annoyed with that, hey, it's Advent this weekend. Advent starts this weekend, so we are on the countdown. So let's get into some more specifics about the game before we get on to that last 20 minutes. Crewe were very, very open. We talked about the high press, and afterwards, David Artell, their manager, he talked about giving goals away, which they did. They absolutely 100%. The 3 goals, you can pinpoint mistake after mistake after mistake in what they did. However, he kind of was a bit, not disingenuous, but he was ignoring all the other chances we created throughout that 70-minute spell. So I'm sort of taking what he says with a pinch of salt there. However, I couldn't work out what they're doing. We had the high press. They seemed to want to beat it by trying to pass the ball around their back three, then hit an early ball into their centre forward, was it Porter?
Yeah.
Who was coming increasingly deeper to try and win these balls. They just weren't getting anywhere at all with it. They get the opening goal because we press quite high up the pitch, and somehow contrive not to win the ball. I think we had 4 players surrounding their one, and the one somehow broke with the ball. I think it was the only time it happened during the game, and they got the goal. And they took it very, very well. It was a great finish.
Yeah.
But after that, their system, what were they playing like? I guess it was a 3-5-2.
Yeah.
But I expected it to be more a 5-3-2. It wasn't. It was a 3-5-2, and they just gave us so much space. I think Rodoni and McCormick and Ayuba were just wondering. They were like Christmas had come early.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was a 3-5-2, but their 2 wing backs weren't interested in defending. Probably because they couldn't defend. Cashlet, I really do like. That's a good signing for them. Dangerous going forward, but if you starve them off the ball, then they're no threat, are they? You're right. I think that sort of team, Crewe, are very much that they stick to their principles, and they are a passing team. They're very much, it's not a surprise to see youngsters in their team, because that's what they do through their academy. Very similar to a style, to a process that we want to do. So I think it's not for them to go long. Just wasn't going to be an option. They were going to continue to play, and they just continue to invite us in. I think with those, you hear a lot of managers who play against us say that you've got to try and play through the press. And yes, if you play through the press, you could technically take 5 players out of that. But ultimately, if you don't play out of the press, you've got 5. And it's even to the extent where our wing backs, in terms of Paul Osu and Esteganis Walker, were really high as well. So there was just no space to play through. It just kept, corner after corner, chance after chance. McCormick really frustrates me at the moment. He's the talent that the kid's got and the speed and everything, but he just won't let it go. He won't ping it. Many opportunities in the first half where just have a shot. We sometimes want to score that perfect goal. We're Arsenal-esque sometimes in that way, and it's not being critical of any player. I just think it's a confidence thing, and the amount of times we got that ball in really dangerous areas with Crewe, but they continue to do it, whether that's stupid or just the fact of that's what they want to do, and that's how they develop their players and set them on.
It worked for them in the last 20 minutes, but I'm putting that down to the fact that we were so high energy and we were pressing so high as a team across the pitch. I think that was just tired legs, I think. And obviously, when you get, I mean, they had some good chances in the end, to be honest with you. There was a header from a corner, which I think we all thought was in, and Kashket went through, and Hennigan had to make a last-ditch challenge. And I think that was just, I think it was just tiredness on our part. I think that's fair to say. But also, I think the key thing to it is the experience of losing to Portsmouth the way we did. Did that help us in the latter stages, knowing that we conceded a late goal and lost a point on Saturday? Did that help us? Did it, on the flip side, did it encourage Crewe on more because perhaps we were a little bit nervous considering what had happened at Fratton Park?
It's so difficult, isn't it? Because, you hear a lot about, closing games out, killing games and stuff. And it's not as easy as, don't get it wrong, some of the teams that come down to our place, Wigan, for example, make it look easy. But I think that was a mixture of, we didn't play well that day. But it's not easy because, the Crewe were going to knock balls in. They didn't go long much during the game. And to be honest with you, they didn't really want to go long even in the last 6 minutes of how much they got added on. But, you can't help. Because, if your logic tells you we'll leave one up or leave two up and it gives them something to think about. But if you then concede a goal, people are going, well, why did them two people stand? Do you know what I mean? It was a little bit of cat and mouse, and it was more of a case that it might have been a chance that we broke. But we did invite them into our area. And we were knackered. Let's be honest with you. I think, we put... But I don't think... I don't know if it was physically knackered or just that mental tiredness sometimes, because I really felt that there was a lot on that game last night. Last night. I can't believe I keep forgetting Tuesday.
Yes.
I just felt maybe that nervous energy or that sort of side of it, because physically we're quite a fit team. And we don't normally tire in the last 20 as noticeably as we did. But hey, look, the only way you can get experience of how to close games out is by being in the situations. But I wouldn't say I'm confident that we're able to do it effectively, but it will come.
Yeah, I think there's little things, and one of the things I think is important to seeing games out is the confidence of your goalkeeper, and I think he's really come on, Zanev, this year. I know people think it's strange because I don't really recall him having a save to make, but just things like coming for crosses when he needs to, handling was excellent, knew when to slow the game, knew when to try and, if he got the ball, knew when to try and go quickly and break. I think we're doing a fantastic job, and his progression is really excellent. The Crewe goalkeeper, on the other hand, well, we'll thank him very much for the first two goals, because without him, I'm not sure we get either of those.
Yeah, there's ways you can look at it, can't you? Because if you look at it from our point of view, the ball in that comes in, and if you look at Jack Radoni, he comes in really late.
This is the first goal.
First goal, sorry, the header. If you look at the run, he's starting from the edge of the area, and then he's going literally straight into the 6-yard area. And there's a lot of people in that anyway. So the delivery's great. We haven't scored many. We haven't scored as much from set pieces as we did earlier in the season. But I think, do you know what? I think it's really close to him. At the time, I thought he saved the ball and rolled it over.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I think we all thought, well, why is that not an own goal? But watching it back, hey, look, I just think Jack Radoni, by the time he heads that, he's in the 6-yard area. Second goal, I actually think you should, praise Iniesta against Walker. Coming in the edgy area, very easy to sky that on his right foot. But the keeper's got to do something more than just parrying it into Jack Radoni. But I still like the reactions. I like the reactions. Jack Radoni, calm, played it straight in, tap in, and then Ollie Palmer gets his chance to show the Crewe fans that he's not as round as they thought he was.
Yeah, I love that. It was so great. So I'm sure everyone listening is aware, but just in case you're not, so Ollie Palmer, in a fantastic act of defending for Crewe, got in the way of was it a McCormick shot? I can't remember now. Yeah, smacked him right in the face, and he was down, and obviously had to have a little bit of treatment because that would have stung. Crewe fans were giving him a bit of grief for doing so. Started singing some songs about his appearance, and then lo and behold, less than 2 minutes later, he scores right in front of them. Having given them a little bit of grief back actually at the time, I forgot about this, as he was being led off the pitch, because he had to come off the pitch once you've been treated before he came back on. He was pointing his finger to the floor to indicate Crewe are going down, and then he went and scored. So You kind of, I love it. And sometimes it works for you, and it worked for us. Sometimes it worked against you. I always remember Sam Winnell giving us a 2-0 sign for Scunthorpe, and we came back to win 3-2. But when it works for you, it's great, and I love it. Go in front of the crowd, give it back. We love it.
I think Ollie needs that. He's a sort of player
Yeah.
that actually likes that little bit of needle. He sort of searches
Kind of
for
like
it.
Lyle.
Yeah, he searches for it if it's not there. I think he needs it on it. What I would say, I thought it was excellent on Tuesday. I really
Oh yeah, standing
showed
ovation when he came
showed
off.
the
Told you that.
difference. Yeah, it showed the difference of a target man leading the line. You know, there's nothing against Aaron Presley because he's learning the game, but Ollie's just made it so easy to see what we've been missing. And you know what? A lot of people were saying, "Oh, I don't know. You know, was he worth the signing?" And he's been injured quite a lot. But you can see that there's a League One striker there easily, and he's just a nuisance, absolute nuisance. And I think the goals on Tuesday night have done a world of good. And I think as long as he stays fit, our performance will keep continuing. But yeah, the needle. I don't know if you've seen the goals back, but there's a lady who is literally losing her. Oh, it's even better when someone individually loses their rag like that. Why would you do it to yourself? Because bless her.
If you're going to give it, you're going to have to learn how to take it, and that's how these things work.
Exactly.
I think that's only fair. And then he chose not to celebrate in front of them when he put the penalty away for the third. As we've discussed, Crewe playing themselves into trouble. High press, Asal goes in, gets fouled, nailed on penalty, and he puts the penalty away. No dramas, except for... and we've done well to go 15 minutes without discussing the performance of Ayuba Sal. But here we are. So, Ayuba, a little bit petulant perhaps, won the penalty. Looked like he wanted to grab the ball and take the penalty himself, and was somewhat sulky that he was not going to get the opportunity to take said penalty. And he's ended up getting himself sent off with, who knows at this stage, but it was... He got a booking very late on. And then a couple of minutes later, he got a straight red. Whether he got a straight red for a late challenge on a 50-50 or for a reaction to a Crewe player putting his head into his chest or for spitting, which I'm not sure where that one's come from. I'm not sure if there's anything in that at all. We're going to talk a lot about him, so we're going to skirt around many issues. But on the red card itself, how long do we have to wait for a referee's report? Because I kind of would want to know. I want to know what the referee's actual reasoning was, because it was a straight red card. It wasn't a second booking.
Yeah, I think in terms of referee reports, I think it will probably be done over. I'd imagine it's got to be in 24. I would have thought 24 hours.
I'd have thought 24 hours. Yeah.
I thought that would be the turnaround time.
So maybe we know by the time people are listening to this.
Possibly, but also I think they would have found out what it was for verbally as well. I think, you know,
sorry. This is one of my bugbears of being primary teacher. You mean orally? Because verbally just means of words. So you mean someone would have discussed it and had it orally said to them?
Someone would use some words in their ear.
And communicated via semaphore.
Many different ways you can communicate out nowadays. Sign language, which I think would have been appropriate for the referee.
Yes.
But I think in terms of the managers, normally have half an hour before they can go and knock on the referee's door, and I'm sure then that Robbo would have asked, can I ask what it's for? Because, realistically, if it's something that we think that we can appeal against, because the beauty of it is, if we're going to look at a beautiful side of it, is it's a straight red and you can appeal a straight red. You can't appeal a second yellow, which you could argue the tackle and the reaction could have easily given them a yellow card, and then you've got no right to appeal. So there are some rumours going around it as a spitting incident. I don't see that, if I'm being honest with you. I don't see a Crewe reaction, because I think we can all safely, it's a vile act, and it's normally something that footballers don't roll around it about with. They react because it's a disgusting thing, and there's nothing there that looks to me that he did. That's the thing. If it's a straight red for the foul, it's late. If it's for the reaction, and hey, look, we're Wimbledon old school, but in the rules of the game, if you raise your hands, you're asking for a bit of trouble, aren't you? But I just, he was fired up, and just as much as we were saying about Ollie Palmer, that he needs that sometimes you might need that little bit of needle and creating needle. Ayuba Sal is just a grumpy little teenager at the moment, isn't he? Let's be fair. You know, he's 40 days off his 20th birthday. I think we need to remember that sometimes. He's just grumpy. And we like that in him. We like that in him because he's got that thing. And there's some stat coming out today that he's done the most assists or, you know, something like that. And he gets the penalty. The penalty frustrated me, Nick, because you always have a designated penalty taker.
Yeah.
And Ollie obviously had a penalty against Pompey on the weekend and scored comfortably. And I just think, as a team ethic, I just think there was no need for it.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Ollie's not going to give it the ball anyway, is he? Let's be fair. But it sort of set that sort of tone, didn't it? And I think he was just frustrated. Hey, look, he's probably frustrated that he didn't get on the score sheet because he had enough chances to. But he's no good for us if he's not on the pitch.
Well, yeah, he's already been suspended once this season for picking up bookings. However, I'm going to defend him this week because first booking he picked up, blocking the quick taking of a free kick. If he does what he did in the first 5 minutes, referee sends him away. Says, just get away, what you're doing, get out of it.
Yeah.
Immediately, in the last 5 minutes, all of a sudden, absolutely everything a player does is potential for time wasting, and the referee goes yellow card. I was quite happy. I thought it was, like I said to you earlier, about sort of managing these games out when you want to get over the line. And some of the things we did to do that, Zanev falling to the floor when he had the ball in his arms, Hartigan kicking the ball away when it was a free kick, got away with that one. Their manager pointed that one out to the referee at the time, going, why is that not a booking? He's literally just kicked the ball away to waste time. But these are things I think you do. And so a South stands in front of the ball, stops the free kick from being taken. I'm thinking fair enough. And then the referee straight with the yellow card. The incident at the end, first off, I'm defending the challenge because I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's a 50-50. The ball's dropping and it's going to bounce. And there's two players going for it. It's 50-50. The Crewe defender is just slightly in front. But if a Sound drops off and doesn't make any effort to try and close him or block him or do anything, people are saying, what are you doing? Why are you holding off? He went for it. He tried to put a block in and he's followed through. But I really didn't see much in it at all. It looks worse looking back, I think, than it did at the time. But I still didn't think. I thought it was fine. But I guess indeed, also red card perhaps for them fronting up the Crewe player and perhaps putting his hands on him. I don't know. But the Crewe player got away with that one as well, to be fair.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And this is the argument, isn't it? You know, if he didn't go in for the challenge, then you go, well, come on, look, it's all in the moment, isn't it? You know, hindsight's a great thing for all of us. I think you're spot on. The time wasting thing always gets worse, doesn't it? As the game goes on, and we've seen some teams try and time waste from the moment they score in the first half. To be honest with you, but I think
Gillingham were time wasting and they were losing.
yeah, it's true. So I think you're spot on. You are spot on. It's in terms of what period of the game is it. What I would say is that I think the Crewe player. There was some people said to me, well, the Crewe player has been doing that and standing over the ball and stopping it. And everyone does it. But I thought the Crewe player was crafty because he actually played the ball. You know, and I was saying this, it's like, you know, penalties. People say, well, you can't get a penalty if you don't fall over. You fall over, you make the referee, as if it becomes a real situation. And then that's what I likened it to when the Crewe player kicked it against Asal, because the Crewe player knew that it was going to get him booked. It's sort of, it's crazy. But it was a stupid booking, but equally, we want people to stand on the ball and make sure that they can't take quick free kicks and stuff. I felt the yellow card the challenge. I think the reason that it could have been a booking is just because of the speed that Asal is going in at. You've got a Crewe player that's going sideways to the ball, and you've got Asal running at 100 miles an hour. And it's that clash, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? But I agree with you. You want him to make that challenge. You want him to make that change, not have an easy ball in. Talking about pace, just very quickly whilst I was saying about that, did you see the run from Paul Lassu? Like, it was like Forrest Gump.
It wasn't a counter-attack and he was overlapping. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Jack. And was on the ball. And Ossie made this huge sprint to get ahead of him. And it was like lung bursting. I was like, wow. And you know what? This is the thing about Paul Lassu, you know, and I get it, what Robbo says, he's still young. We forget, because he's been around the scene for a little while, we think he's older than what he is.
But his pace, if you can utilise that, because if he has a run on somebody, he ain't catching them. And but yeah, just when you talk about the pace, I was like, that was just highlight of the evening. I was like, oh my days, what was that? 0 to 60 in 2 seconds or something? Ridiculous speed.
And someone else I want to highlight, two final points. Someone else I want to highlight for their performance on Tuesday night, Anthony Hartigan. We talked about our high press and what we did to win the ball high at the pitch, but what I also thought we did is we mixed it up really well, and Hartigan was key to that. And the amount of times we just dropped balls over the top as well into channels or behind centre halves caused lots of problems, and he was always alert to that. And at times he was spreading the play, and his vision was just, and his execution was flawless, to be honest with you, I think, on the night. And he was I know you say Ollie Palmer and he got the sponsors man of the match, and it's hard to disagree with that one, but Hartigan I thought was as important, and Woody's energy, as always, was up there. The last one, I don't mean to finish on a negative, but I did want to just ask about going back to the Portsmouth game, which we haven't talked about, as you would expect us not to, because it's 2 games back. But the disappointment with that Portsmouth game, losing it, the winning goal, no one puts any press in. Is that a fair criticism?
No, it is. We just don't do it. Just don't do the basics, and then just goes right through the middle. Yeah. And it's crazy because the performance, and the Pompey performance leads into Crewe, because I think Pompey set a standard going, that's what we've got to do, in terms of the pressing and all those things that come with it. But yeah, I thought I thought we made Pompey look bang average. I really did. Like when you go to a Fratton Park before, you always feel like the crowd are on top and there's pressure. There wasn't that. When you can see the late goal, sometimes you go, oh, it's coming. It wasn't coming. But we switch off, and they're the small margins. You come away playing well, but you've got nothing to show for it. So yeah, the challenge for us at the moment is, and one thing I'm sort of noticing is, I totally agree that it's the process, and it's we learn from it, but we've got to start learning quicker, in my opinion. And it's not having a criticism of the players, but that is really critical. Going to Pompey, taking a point, what you deserve, rather than coming away thinking, we've cheated ourselves out of a point. But yeah, straight through the middle, good finish, but so frustrating.
Overall, best week and worst week. Is this a very straightforward case of best week Ollie Palmer, worst week Ayuba Sal?
Yeah, I think that's can't look any other different way. Even though Sal had a really good game, got a penalty and stuff like that, we can't afford him not to be on the pitch, especially the injuries we've got and stuff like that. So yeah, I think Sal just let himself down. But he's young, and I'm sure Robbo, but he doesn't. What I want to say, he doesn't need an old-fashioned bollocking. Just needs an arm around his shoulder. He's a grump. He reminds me, he's a like Kevin and Stacey. It's just like he's just a grumpy teenager. Kevin and Stacey. No, it's not right. Kevin's right, isn't
it? Somehow conflated.
Oh yeah,
Kevin and Perry with Gavin and Stacey.
Oh, we've just got a new couple now. But he is basically Kevin, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just that grumpy teenager. And he just needs an arm around him. He just needs an arm around and go, do you know what? Play me well, but just don't get involved. The problem is he's so quick that he didn't have a chance for him and his teammates to catch up. Because he's just literally so quick. But apart from Paul Ossie, should have been there quicker. I know he wasn't. He was off by then, wasn't he?
I think he was off by then. So I think we might be. Yeah.
Being a bit off. But yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on for the podcast derails even further.
Kevin and Stacey.
You said something and I thought, I'm just going to check that out. And then, Kevin and Stacey has completely thrown me. So, quick roundup elsewhere in League One. I'm just going to pick out some highlights because we're running late now. Yeah. So, Gillingham, awful week for them. Lost 2-0 to Crewe, who by far away the worst team. Worse than Gillingham Crewe, on the evidence of what I've seen when they've been to Plough Lane. Crewe were really poor. But Gillingham lost them 2-0 on the weekend, and then they lost at home to Cheltenham in the week 2-0. Awful week for them. What a shame. Plymouth, having not lost since the opening day, two on the bounce without scoring. to Charlton and then Wycombe on Tuesday night. Wycombe and Rotherham won both their games this week, and they are currently sitting in the top 2 automatic promotion places. So I'm very sorry for doubting you earlier in the season, Rotherham. Maybe you are going to go up automatically after all. We have Fleetwood visiting on Saturday to Plough Lane. They have just parted company with their manager, who therefore is no longer their manager. So I'm not sure how we say that. They've parted company with Simon Grayson anyway. Currently 22nd in the league. They have lost 5 of their last 6. They've not won any of those. So it's 1 point from their last 18 available. Stephen Craney is their man who's going to take temporary charge of the side. I look at their squad, Stu. You called it at the start of the season. We thought they were going to struggle. They look weak. Normally, I talk about law of averages. And when a team goes so long without winning a game, they are due. But there are always exceptions to this rule where teams are particularly poor. And I think Fleetwood are a squad at the moment that are particularly poor. So a Sal's suspension aside, I think this is 3 points.
Has to be. You know, if we go in taking maximum points from 2 home games, then that's really good. They, like I say, they picked up a draw against Wycombe in the last 8, beat Crewe at home 3-0. But then we can see Crewe are that. They score goals, they let in goals, of course they do. But I think Fleetwood's just we all know, whoever's been to Fleetwood all knew that it was financed by, you know, a local entrepreneur.
Andy Pilley.
Yeah, you know, and it was funded, and that's fine. But you always knew if that funding, or unfortunately with the pandemic and stuff, then his own business is struggling, and that means the money comes out of Fleetwood. So it's never a surprise. It was going to happen at some point. Looks like it's happening now, but yeah, they're on a terrible run. I think we need to go at them early. You know, get at them early, get a crowd behind. You know, hopefully a full house, or I don't know. To be fair, just let them in. I'm joking. Full house on Saturday, and hopefully that should be too much for them.
Scoreline prediction.
Do you know what? I think we're going to score again. Score again. Of course, we're going to score again. I think it could be another 3. So I'm going to go for. Do you know what? Let's go for it. I'm going to go for a 4-0 win.
Wow, you've gone big. Much like Kevin and Stacey did in 2000. You've gone large there, and gone with a 4-0. So I'll temper it with a 1-0. But yeah,
I think we'll settle for something in between. Well, we can't.
Do you know, Tuesday night, if that was me in Football Manager, I wouldn't be having it. I'd be like, no, too many chances, too many shots, too many goals. Not happy. Rather have a 0-0. Anyway. Elsewhere in League One, just one game that's flying out for me to look at. There are some big ones at the top of the table. Don't care about that. Lincoln Accrington, because there are 2 teams that are in the mix, the relegation mix. So, yes, I don't know if there's anything that stood out to you. I think Sheffield Wednesday have got a big game, maybe.
Yeah, well, there's actually quite a few. Oxford at home to Rotherham, Plymouth at home to Wigan. Do you know what? Very quickly, I thought Wigan were very good at ours, but I'm starting to doubt whether they were as good and whether we were as bad. Because since then, they are not in good form.
No, they got a point at Cambridge in the week, didn't they, from 2-0 down to 2-2. I wonder if there's a little bit of the effect that we had in our non-league days of cup final day for a lot of teams, maybe.
Possibly. But yeah, there's a few interesting. Charlton at Shrewsbury. Charlton obviously got the interim manager at the moment. Is it interim or temporary manager? But they're form.
Whichever,
they're second in the form table. So, yeah, some big clashes at the top, but the big game, of course, is us at home to Fleetwood Town.
I'm not I'm not sure if I'm either going to lead with that one on Saturday, to be honest with you. Last thing, because I don't want to spend too much time. Turnstiles on Tuesday night. Now, when I arrived, around about 7:30, I got to the stadium and I walked from Earlsfield. So I'm walking past the east... No, I'm not. I'm walking past the north stand. I've turned left and I'm making my way down the east stand and I see this long queue, which is the longest queue I've ever seen at AFC Wimbledon. Well, probably since the Sutton United first ever game, Chipstead, those sorts of queues, which were longer. There's about 4 or 5 people wide, stretched all the way down to the south stand. South stand queue was long, which it always is, to be honest with you, when I walk past it on a Saturday, but I'm normally earlier than I was on Tuesday. I'm just going to say it, Stu. Never had these problems in the days of paper tickets, and someone goes, ticket, rip, in you go. Ticket, rip, in you go. Technology, I tell you, it's the death of us. I'm putting it down to that anyway.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree with you. I wouldn't disagree with you. I got there about 6, quarter past, which is late. Late for me. I try to get there a bit early. I know,
You
but
were
I'm
a
just getting, I
sprint
get
between you and
excited.
George who could get there earlier.
George is there the day before.
Yeah.
But I noticed it was reasonably quiet because it's midweek, isn't it? You know, people coming from work, etc. So it's not historically those midweek games are always going to be late people coming in. But even when I went in, the season ticket for me didn't scan. They just waved me through. I get frustrated because that the system's got to work, surely. But it's a mixture of people arriving late or later, closer to kickoff. But we can't be having those queues. We really can't. So the technology is failing us, and from what we understand, at one point I think they had people that they just waved through.
They just waved through at the end,
Like,
opened a big exit gate, and people had just sort of gone through.
yeah.
So that's why I say attendance figure take with a massive pinch of salt.
We've got to be careful with that as well because we might have people coming in who shouldn't be in. Could even have away. I'm just surmising. Could have away fans.
Could have some
at one
Watford
point.
fans.
Well, I don't think they'd be coming down to see any of Watford loanies. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Invisible Man at the moment. Don't know where he is.
So I think we've got to be careful with it. The queues for food and drink at half time again are really really long. I think I heard someone today saying that they got maybe separated queues. I think they said some person in front of them was queue for 10 minutes and just wanted a Snicker bar. So can we not look at maybe I think a lot of those queues are alcohol beverages from surmising. So we've just got to make sure we can find a way. But for me personally, I went to the West Stand, thought I'm not going to queue there. Went down to the South Stand. Ridiculous in terms of, I think there was 4 separate queues for the Wimbledon Brewery. So I decided to just come back up, and I waited for 5 minutes for the game. So the second half kicks off, waited 5 minutes, went in, and was right in front of the queue.
Yeah.
So you can use it to your advantage, but that's it's just and I think maybe in midweek again, because people are travelling from work, etc. They might want food, and probably more demand maybe than on a Saturday. But it wasn't the greatest from behind the scenes, but the club have acknowledged it today.
Yeah.
So at least they're aware of it, and hopefully better on Saturday.
Fingers crossed. Touch wood. Last thing, 2001, Stu. You're going to enjoy this little quick look back, and this is very quick because there's nothing to talk about Milton Keynes move wise. So just the usual. One couple of results to talk about. When I said earlier about struggling to beat teams near the bottom of the table, and really, 20 years ago this week we hosted Warsaw, big European tie in Nationwide League Division 1, 4,249 people at Selhurst Park. Yeah. David Connolly scored twice, but we eked out a 2-2 draw, which was really, really poor. And very frustrating to not win at home against a struggling team as it was. And I do remember that game because I remember how awful we were. And we got 2 goals and we still managed to throw it away. So there was that. And then the following, that was a midweek. And then on the Saturday, we lost at home to Wolves. I think it might have been, could it have been Nathan Blake? I'm going to double check it. A much higher attendance, 9,800. But Wolves ended up, I think they lost out in the automatic promotion race to West Brom that season. So I think that was the season we finished at Molineux. Last away game was at Molineux. We did the Kevin Cooper presentation on the pitch, and I just remember singing "Boing Boing Baggies Baggies." I'd never seen a reaction like it from the home faithful. But was it Nathan Blake or was it? I don't know. I'm going to find out. But anyway,
possibly. Possibly. But at least Walsall, the problem was Walsall got the 2 away goals, didn't they? So that would have buggered us up for the next leg.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in the what was that in the Intercity Fairs Cup, whatever it was at the time, Cup Winners' Cup.
Just very quickly, but Brandon Kiernan scored the winner for them against Port Vale midweek, resurrecting his career.
Doing what to his career?
Resurrecting, is that a word?
You're right.
Yeah, obviously, gone abroad and got a Brummie accent at the same time. But yeah, it's good to see players coming back up the pyramid.
I'll take your word for that. Oh, Blake's shot was charged down. It was Dean Sturridge who scored. I did wonder if it was Dean Sturridge. Nathan Blake, I think, scored the winner when at Molineux. So, yeah, Dean Sturridge, wow. Fresh from his transfer at the time from Harchester United. So he did that was a good signing for Wolves. But, yeah, 20 years ago this week, Stu, number one film was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. How old does that make you feel? Yeah. That was Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and the other one. So that was going back quite a while, making me feel very, very old. The song, number one single, was from your favourite band, S Club 7.
What song was it this time?
It was Have You Ever?
No.
And Have You Ever...
That's a game, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. In brackets afterwards, it says Have You Ever, and on brackets afterwards, it's like struggled to beat the bottom team at home. Yes.
You could have a great game with that, couldn't you? Have you ever? You don't have the players. Have you ever? Yeah.
We should ask the players that, but it could get very... Did you see the James Shea interview, by the way? So James Shea played for Luton in the week because their first choice keeper had to isolate.
Did he play, did he?
Yeah. So it was Lara versus James Shea.
Oh, bless.
He got a clean sheet, which is probably what the interviewer was probably thinking, clean sheet, when he started the conversation. Good to see you back between the sheets. Brilliant. So check out our Twitter.
It was like a second, wasn't it, delay, and then both realising that the interviewer said, and James was addressing James Shea. We spoke to him many times. A really nice guy, and was like, "Yeah, can we start that again?" But don't want that rumour going around.
Yeah, James Shea. I think I said when he left, I would have kept him. And keeping clean sheets in the Championship. So,
can I just say very quickly, by the way, I don't know if anyone has seen this, by the way, right? There's anyone who follows the unfortunate football Twitter site. There's this thing of in America, right? A goalkeeper lets it's deflected, it goes in. Have you seen that? Player then is the most literally just mocks him.
So it's the player that scored. Was it the guy? Yeah, was it the goal scorer or just someone else?
I'm not sure, but he literally mocks him with these like motions of saving, and then obviously keeper loses his rag. I'd have lost my rag a bit quicker than what the keeper did at the time.
Yeah.
Then pushes him.
Well, no, it's not. The thing is, it's not even the keeper, is it? It's one of the keeper's teammates. And smashes him over.
And then then he's holding his face, so he's acting as well. And then to make matters worse, the physio runs on.
I know.
Oh, it was just like, footballers are just, like if you were his teammate, you'd be like, mate, you're an arse. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
There might have been, don't get me wrong, there might have been something gone on before that, or there might have been some history to put it into context, but oh my days.
There might have been history, but he impersonates the goalkeeper doing this daft fake dive. And if he'd have done it once, I'd have said, maybe they were having a little bit of a wind up. But he doesn't do it once. He does it like 4 times, and you're thinking, all right, you've made your point now, move on. But it's like WWE scripted football. That's the sort of thing they'd script if it was predetermined.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, last word on S Club 7. Rachel Stevens was a very, very attractive woman. But Tina never gets enough credit. I'm really sorry. She did get credit at the time. It was all about Rachel Stevens and Hannah Spirit. Joe turned out to be dodgy. And then there's Tina, and I just think Tina needs a little bit of a shout out to Tina Barrett. If you're listening, Tina, we salute you.
Do you know what? S Club 7 reminds me when I first went to Magaluf as a youngster.
Yep.
I'll never forget it. We literally got
Stuart,
into...
I've got to promise you, okay, please carry on with this story. Please don't let me stop you. But I think you've told us this story more times than you've seen Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
It's just the best thing, Magaluf. It was the best. Well, it was the most favourite tune. Getting to Magaluf 3:00 in the morning, went past the bar, could hear it, and then went in. Yeah, I didn't have any shame back then. I still haven't got any shame.
Yeah, got any now, to be honest.
Nothing wrong with a bit of cheese. And saying that, I hear that the One Bells is going to remain a fixture at Plough Lane. So let's all get ready for a bit of the Nolans on the PA. Can't wait. Even better sound system as well. So it's going to sound even better.
The One Bells, they love a bit of cheese. On that note, we're going to end the podcast this week. Thank you very much, Stu, for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Updates from the game with Fleetwood will be on our Twitter at 9YRS Podcast. But that is it. Alexa Bliss, bag first milk last. 2 plus 2 equals 4, and we shall speak to you again next Friday.